Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dan. I don't do a lot of videos because nobody really watches them, but I've been feeling like I needed to do this one. Guy's been kind of tugging at my shirt tail, for lack of a better explanation. But since I know a little something about this, I figured, well, I'll give it a shot. We're going to talk about the power of prayer, and it was 1976, I believe. I was a young 13-year-old boy. Growing up out in the country, we went to a country church, and every summer they'd have what we called summer camp, like vacation Bible school, I imagine. We'd stay in the dorms at the church, and I don't remember if it was a week or 2 weeks, but anyway, every year there was one night they'd keep us up really late, and then the next morning they'd wake us up real early. And this year, see, I was real shy when I was young. I didn't like talking in front of people. I didn't like talking, period, really, but especially around people I didn't know or didn't know real well, wasn't family, whatever, I was just real shy. I was kind of like the wallflower behind the wallflower behind the wallflower in the darkest corner. That's where you'd find me. But this one night, they'd kept us up late, it was real late, I don't know what time. And I think it was the pastor had us gathered in the chapel before we went to bed, and he asked me to close us out in prayer, and I never get called for that because people know I just don't, I don't do well with stuff like that. But anyway, when I prayed, I asked God to not make us get up early. As you can imagine, everybody in the room chuckled and got a good laugh out of it. Because it worked out. So anyway, the next morning we didn't get up early. We got up about the regular time, I think. And when they gathered us in the chapel for the morning ritual, the pastor explained that my prayer had done the job because his alarm, for some reason, didn't go off that morning. He knew he had set it, but for some reason it didn't go off. So I was like, wow, ain't that something? So anyway, that was my first real acknowledgement, I guess, that prayer actually works. And it was a few years later, in 1984, it was my parents' 26th wedding anniversary, and I was, according to friends, because I don't remember a thing of the whole day, or a couple of weeks after, I was riding my motorcycle, and I was supposedly on the way to the flower shop to get flowers for my parents' anniversary, their 26th anniversary, and I never made it. Some kids out drinking and drugging and tearing up the streets turned right in front of me, and I was catapulted several feet headfirst in the pavement. Suffered a fractured skull and a blood clot the size of a peach on the brain, and doctors gave me absolutely no chance to live. No chance at all to live. And right at that area of time, in that area, there was like 4 other guys that had motorcycle accidents and injuries about the same as mine. 3 of them passed shortly after getting to the hospital. There was 1 other guy that lived and came out of his coma, and he had to relearn talking, walking, everything, man. And me, I was truly blessed. I woke up from the coma and I could talk and walk and everything. my memory was non-existent basically, and my eyesight was doubled terribly, but sometimes it's not such a bad thing, so you do have everything. You eat more that way without eating more. Anyway, come to find out after getting home from the hospital, when that accident happened, after that accident happened and I was in the hospital, they didn't expect me to live through the night. And my parents and family and friends had all put me on prayer lists. They said all over the country. Now, mind you, this is before interweb was a big deal and before we had social networking and all that. We didn't have Facebook or FaceTime or Yahoo or any of that. So, you know, it wasn't as easy to spread the word on prayer lists around the country or around the world like nowadays. But anyway, for the first week they kept telling my parents there was no way I'd live. There was no way I'd live. They went in the next day, did emergency surgery, took the pressure off the blood clot, took a chunk of my skull out right here to release the pressure, and then a week later they put that piece of bone back in. But they were still telling my parents that, you know, there was no chance I'd live. And as time went on, they got to where, well, he won't live, but if he does, he'll be a vegetable hooked up to, you know, life support the rest of his life. And after a week, I think it was a week in a coma, I woke up. I remember waking up, I asked my girlfriend to marry me, and she said yes. And I don't remember much after that. Till they had me in a regular room. Probably a week later, I kind of remember things from there. But the whole day of the accident and probably, I don't know how long after, I don't remember any of it, except that one little episode where I woke up and asked Dawn, my girlfriend, to marry me. And that was basically all I remember. I know they used to kid me that Mom was in there, and they asked if, the nurse asked me if I was going to get another motorcycle. I said, yeah, this summer. My mom said she wanted to knock me back out into a coma, so. Not always smart to answer in front of your mom. But anyway, the point, and I digress. I digress terribly sometimes. I get to gabbing, but my point is that the power of prayer is unimaginable, unmeasurable when the circumstances are right and when the will of God is right. You know, when I left the hospital, they said, well, you'll be lucky to see 52. And in about 3 weeks, I'll be turning 59. So, doctors don't know it all, period. And I'll leave it at that. That was 1984, 37 years ago, you know. So now we're just 3 months ago, June 15th, I went in for a heart catheterization, and I was pretty sure they were going to find something, but I had no idea what. And I'm not a doctor, so I really didn't have a clue. But I figured they'd find something. I'd been dealing with some things for about a year, and they did. The doctor shoved that thing up through my femoral artery. We got to my heart, and I was watching it on the monitor. He yanked it right back out, leaned over and said, open heart surgery. I was right across the street from the hospital at that point. They sent me across the street to the hospital to the ER department. By late that evening, I was finally admitted. Every time I go to that ER department, it takes about 8-9 hours to actually get anything done, whether you get in the hospital or out of the hospital. but it takes hours. And so late that evening, they had me admitted finally. The next day, they spent doing tests and ultrasounds and x-rays and yada, 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 making sure I was good enough for surgery. Then on the following day, the 17th of June, they took me in first thing in the morning for open heart surgery, did what they call a CABG by 3. I cannot remember what the CABG stands for, but I know it's a 3-way bypass, a triple bypass. So that's the story of that. And my wife and Facebook family and friends, again, all had me on prayer lists. And again, the power of prayer was an awesome thing. And I'm just here to testify to that fact that power of prayer is unimaginable, unmeasurable, and God help us all in this country. We need a lot of prayer these days. And with that being said, I will close this out and let y'all get back to normal programming. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.